been fishing all my life, and I've learned one rule you don't break. No matter how good the bite is, don't fish at night. You hear things, see things. The water acts differently, and in some ponds, especially the old ones, they say the water isn't just still, it's watching. That's why I never fished the hollow pond after sundown. Until last fall. You won't find hollow pond on most maps. It sits tucked away in a crooked pocket of pine forest on my grandfather's land in northern Alabama. Been there since before the Civil War, or so the stories say. Some say it was a sinkhole filled by underground springs. Others claim it was a crater left by something that fell from the sky. But everyone agrees on one thing: you don't mess with it. My granddad, God rest him, warned me plenty. That pond's got a memory, boy, he'd say. It doesn't forget what's thrown in, and it doesn't give back what's taken. I thought he was just being colorful. Old folks like to scare kids with stories, so they don't wander too far into the woods. I wish I'd listened. It started in September, after a bad run of weeks. I'd lost my job at the mill. My fiancée left. My dog Huck got sick and died within 2 days. I was hanging on by a thread, eating canned soup and bourbon for dinner. I went back to the cabin, the one Granddad left me. Figured I'd fish the pond for a while, eat what I caught, and maybe find some kind of peace. The pond was the same as I remembered, black, glassy and silent. The trees around it leaned inward like they were whispering to the water. Nothing moved unless you did. First couple of days, I caught nothing. Then, on the third morning, I reeled in a bass the size of my forearm. It didn't make sense. This pond was supposed to be all but dead. But suddenly, it was teeming. The fish were off though, grayish, slippery in a way I didn't like. Their eyes were cloudy, their mouths too wide. They flopped less like they were fighting, and more like they were twitching. I threw most of them back. Still, I couldn't stop fishing. It was like the pond had woken up, and it wanted me there. One evening, around dusk, I pulled in a catch I'll never forget. It wasn't a fish, it was a hand. Humans, gray, waterlogged, fingernails long and curled. The skin looked like it had been soaking for years. It came up tangled in my line, gripped tight around the hook, like it had grabbed it on purpose. I dropped my rod and stumbled backward, dry heaving. When I dared to look again, it was gone. No ripples, no blood, no trace. I told myself it was a branch or a hallucination, maybe stress, maybe the bourbon, but I couldn't sleep that night. Something was scratching under the cabin floorboards. Next morning, I found a dead deer by the pond's edge. Half in, half out, its eyes were missing, face peeled like bark. No signs of scavengers, no blood, just emptied. The air smelled like copper and pondweed. Still, I stayed, because by then, I didn't have anywhere else to go. By day 7, I'd stopped checking the time. The pond wasn't just full, it was feeding me. Every time I cast my line, something pulled. Sometimes bass, sometimes catfish, sometimes things I didn't recognize. One catch had skin like wax and gills that twitched long after I gutted it. Another had a face, not a human one, just, almost. The forest was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no bugs, not even wind, just the sound of water lapping the muddy shore, like breathing. Then came the night. I broke the rule. I'd gone out later than usual, lost track of the light. By the time I packed up, it was full dark, and the pond changed. The water shimmered, like moonlight was boiling across the surface. Shapes moved below, too large for fish, too slow. I should have left. Instead I sat. I lit a cigarette and watched the ripples. That's when I heard it. My name, whispered, from across the pond. I froze, listened. Clay, soft, wet, dragged out like something trying to remember how to speak. I stood up, rod in one hand, flashlight in the other, scanned the trees. Nothing. Then I heard it again, closer. Clay, come down. The water bubbled. Something was rising. At first I thought it was a log. Long, black, slick. Then it unfolded. It was a man, or had been once. tall, bloated, skin translucent, veins like ink trapped under ice, eyes pale, with tiny black pupils like pinholes, and he was smiling. "You left me," he said. I recognized the voice. "Luke, my cousin. He drowned in the pond 20 years ago, when we were kids. We dared each other to swim across. He never made it. They never found his body." I remember my granddad yelling, saying we'd stirred up the stillness. Luke stepped out of the water, feet slapping mud. I'd been waiting, Clay, waiting in the black. He reached for me. I ran, didn't stop until I hit the cabin, locked the doors, barricaded the windows. I didn't sleep, just sat with a shotgun in my lap and my back to the wall. The pond whispered all night. The next day, I tried to leave. Truck wouldn't start. Battery dead. I hiked toward the trail, found it overgrown, swallowed by vines that hadn't been there before. I tried the radio. Nothing but static and voices I couldn't understand. Gurgling, humming, like songs sung in reverse. I knew then, the pond wanted me. That night, I set fire to my gear, broke my rods, tossed the bait into the woods. Didn't matter. The pond came to me. It started with the walls sweating, thick green water seeping from the seams. The air grew heavy. Breathing felt like drowning. I vomited mud. In the mirror, my reflection didn't match me. It blinked wrong. It smiled. And then outside, the whispering. Dozens of voices. Luke's, my granddad's, my mother's, all dead, all gone. They circled the cabin like a choir. "Clay, come see. Clay, feed the stillness. Clay, Clay, Clay." I opened the door. I don't know why. Curiosity. Surrender. Maybe I wanted answers. But the pond doesn't give answers. It just absorbs. They stood at the edge. Figures. Pale. Dripping. Old and young. Familiar and foreign. All soaked in the same black algae. Luke stood at the center, arms outstretched. He opened his mouth, and something came out. Not sound, not words, just bubbles, rising, popping. I walked to him. I felt my feet leave the mud. I was floating. I was flying. I was flying. I woke up in the dirt. Sunrise. No figures. No voices. But my clothes were soaked. My hands wrinkled. My lips blistered with salt. I left that morning. Forced the truck to start by pushing it downhill. Didn't stop driving for 6 hours. Never looked back. Now I live 2 states away. No pond. No trees. No quiet. I work in a hardware store. Eat lunch in crowds. Sleep with the lights on. But I still hear it. Sometimes in the drain pipes. In the rain. In the silence between breaths. Clay. And a few nights ago, I found something on my porch. A bucket of water. Still as glass. And inside, floating at the top, a hook, still warm. I didn't touch the bucket, not at first. I just stared at it through the screen door, the morning sun bouncing off the water like light off an open eye. It hadn't rained the night before, no kids in the neighborhood, no pranksters, and even if there had been, who the hell leaves one hook floating in a bucket of still water? It was the same kind I used when Luke and I were kids. Same rust, same green wire wrap, hand tied by my granddad. I recognized the knot. There's no way anyone else could have had it. And yet, there it was, waiting, like it knew I'd look, like it wanted me to remember. I moved the bucket to the garage, left it there. By the second day, the water inside hadn't evaporated, not even a little. I don't know why that mattered to me, but it did. Water doesn't behave like that. Not under the heat of an Alabama autumn, not in a sealed garage with no AC. But there it sat, still as ever. By day 4, I started hearing the flies. At first, just 1 or 2, then more, circling the garage door, buzzing near the windows. I sprayed. I checked for food or trash. Nothing. Still they came, drawn to the water, or whatever was inside it. Day 5, I caved. I pulled on gloves, opened the bucket, and poured the contents out into the driveway. The water hit the pavement wrong. It didn't splash. It oozed. Slow, darker than it looked in the light. It clung to the concrete in thick lines, like old oil. The hook hit the ground with a soft metallic clink, and that's when I saw it. The reflection, not mine, someone else's, standing just over my shoulder. Too tall, face wet, eyes wrong. I turned, no one there. But when I looked down again, the hook was gone. That night, I dreamed of the pond again, but it wasn't how I remembered it. It was bigger, wider, endless, like a sea that had forgotten it wasn't an ocean anymore. The trees were gone, the sky was ash gray. In the middle of the water, something rose, a shape, towering, spined, not fish, not man, and beneath it, bodies, floating just under the surface, eyes open, mouths agape, all of them watching me, some of them smiling. I woke choking on water, cold, salted, my pillow soaked. No storm, no leaks, just a mouthful of pond water, where my breath should have been. I knew what was happening. The pond hadn't let go. It never would. That's when I made the mistake of trying to tell someone. I called an old buddy from the mill, Derek. He owed me a few favors. I thought maybe saying it out loud would break whatever spell I was under. I told him everything. The pond, Luke, the hand, the hook in the bucket, silence on the other end of the line. Then a click. He'd hung up. Next morning, I got a text. You woke it up. It's gonna feed again. I tried calling back. Number disconnected. I didn't go into work that day. I didn't shower. Didn't eat. I just sat at the kitchen table, staring at the floor where the bucket used to be, listening, because I could hear it now. The ticking. Not a clock. Not a machine. Dripping, like water falling one drop at a time onto skin, coming from under the floorboards. That night, I lifted the kitchen rug and found it. A spiral, carved into the floor. Not recent. It had been there before I moved in, covered by laminate, worn down with age. A spiral just like the one I saw on Luke's bloated chest. The same one I remembered carved into the bark of the trees around Hollow Pond. I traced it with my finger. The air shifted. The lights flickered, and then a whisper. They're still down there. I lost time after that. The next 2 days blurred together in gas station food, showers that never get me clean, and the constant whisper of water under the floor. I started to see wet footprints in the hallway, leading from the bathroom to the kitchen, always fresh, always facing inward. I live alone, or I used to. On the third night, someone knocked on the door. 3 slow taps. I looked through the peephole and saw nothing. Then I heard it again. Not from the front door, from the bathtub. I ran in, yanked back the curtain. There was water in it, 3 inches deep, and in the water another hook. Same rust, same knot, baited this time, with what looked like a tooth. I left, didn't pack, didn't lock the door, just got in the truck and drove until I didn't recognize the roads. I ended up in a nowhere town, near the Georgia line, rented a room at a half-condemned motel called the Sleepy Oak. The lady at the front desk didn't ask questions, just handed me a key and told me not to bother the man in room 2. He doesn't talk much. No more, she said. Neither do I. I tried to sleep. Didn't work. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt something rising below the bed. Not walking, not crawling, floating, like it didn't belong on land, like it was remembering how to wear a body. By morning I found a note slid under the door, written in water, words soaked into the paper like blood through cotton. It said, "You never buried us. It's been 4 days now. Every faucet in the motel leaks salt water. The man in room 2 left in the middle of the night, but he didn't use the front door. He walked into the pond. There's a pond behind the motel, of course, covered in duckweed. Small, still, but not dead. Never dead, just waiting. And this morning, I woke to find the bucket again, same as before, on the motel's porch, and inside it, not a hook. This time it's an eye, still blinking, still watching. I think I know what it wants. It wants me to go back to Hollow Pond, back to where it started, because it's not finished, because some things don't drown, they just wait. They grow in still water. Some places shouldn't be marked on a map. I found out that in the summer I turned 59. See, I'd just retired. 32 years on the road hauling freight. Nothing glamorous, just 1,000 miles of highway and gas station burritos. When the company handed me a cheap plaque and a firm handshake, I thought I'd finally made it. No more deadlines, no more alarms, just peace, coffee, and fishing. My wife had left years ago. No kids, no grandkids. It was just me and the itch that never left since I was a boy. The need to sit by the water, line in the drink. Nothing but time and the buzz of dragonflies. So I bought a used camper and headed north into the woods of upstate Vermont, chasing rumors of untouched fishing spots. I found one at a diner in Lyndonville. Some old man in a flannel told me about a forgotten pond up past a gas station that hadn't operated in decades. Used to be a logging camp out there, he said. Pond's still full. Ain't many folks fish it these days though. Why not? I asked. He chewed on a toothpick for a beat. I don't like being disturbed. I laughed, thinking it was just old-timer superstition. I really shouldn't have laughed. It took me 2 hours of gravel roads and tire-busting routes to find it. There was no sign, no parking lot, just a narrow trail leading through black spruce and thorny underbrush. I left the camper a mile back, loaded up my rod, a tackle box, and a thermos of gas station coffee, and hiked in. And then, there it was, Stillwater Pond. That was the name etched in faded letters on a half-rotted post near the bank. The pond itself was a perfect oval, surrounded by trees leaning inward, like they were trying to eavesdrop. Not a ripple on the surface, even with the wind. No bird song, no insects, just the sound of my own boots sinking into the mossy shore. Most people would have turned around. I should have, but I'd driven too far to quit. The first hour went by quietly, nothing biting, not even a nibble. Still, I was content, just me and the water. I had nowhere to be. Around noon, I felt the first tug. I reeled in a smallmouth bass, about 15 inches. Good size, but its eyes were off, cloudy, not the kind of milky you get from age or disease, but something else, like it had seen something deep in the dark. It wasn't supposed to. I tossed it back. Then a minute later, another tug, bigger this time. What I pulled up wasn't a fish, it was a boot, a child's boot, cracked leather, faded red, waterlogged, and full of silted hair. I dropped it like it was burning, and backed away. 10 feet behind me, the trail was gone. I swear to you, it just wasn't there anymore. Trees stood where it had been, close together, gnarled like knuckles. I spun, thinking maybe I'd gotten turned around. Maybe I was just tired. Then I looked down, and noticed my footprints were gone too. I don't scare easily, but something about that pond, the way it never rippled, the way the air seemed to press inward, triggered something old in my bones, something primal. I packed up, and tried to push through the trees, but they didn't let me. No matter how I turned, every few steps led me back to the bank, like the forest was on a loop. I tried yelling, firing my flare, climbing a tree. Nothing worked. When night fell, the water started making noise. Not splashing, not frogs, something breathing. I built a fire from kindling and broken branches, but the flame didn't give off heat. It crackled and hissed like it was burning underwater. The woods were too quiet, and the pond, it moved, not like wind or current. The surface stayed still, but underneath, shadows slid back and forth like things pacing below glass. I didn't sleep that night, and I wasn't alone. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps, slow, wet, coming from the trees. I turned the flashlight toward the sound and caught a glimpse, just a flash of something between the trunks. A boy, maybe 10 years old, shirtless, hair matted to his forehead, skin gray and dripping. His eyes were wide and black like fish eyes. He didn't blink. He smiled. Then he opened his mouth, and something else came out. A voice too old for his face, low and bubbling. You should not have come. The woods spun around me, trees shifting like they were moving while I wasn't. Every direction curved back toward the pond. I collapsed near the bank, out of breath, heart racing like it wanted to jump out of my ribs. That's when I noticed something new. A dock. Wasn't there before. Short, rotted, barely above the waterline, and tied to it, a canoe. I knew what the pond wanted. It wanted me to go out. I fought the urge, but it pulled at me, not with hands, but with memory. I thought of my ex-wife, her hands trembling as she signed the divorce papers. I thought of the boy I almost had, the son who didn't make it to birth, the ultrasound we never got to frame, the name we never used, Thomas. That's when I saw the boy again, standing at the end of the dock. Same face, same eyes, same smile. "Come," he said. So I did. Mist rose around me, thick and yellow tinged. After maybe 10 minutes of rowing, I saw it. An island, small, circular, covered in bone-white reeds and driftwood. I landed, stepped out, and the moment my boots touched the shore, everything changed. The sky turned black, not night black, void black, like the world had forgotten what light was. I heard voices, all around me, children, men, women, whispers, cries, laughter, and underneath it all, a deep, slow voice, like something speaking through a mouth full of mud. "Leave your name behind." I turned to run, but the canoe was gone. The pond was gone. I was standing in a room, stone walls, wet with moss, a pool at the center, no windows, just the smell of rot. Shapes moved in the water. I stepped closer. They weren't fish, they were faces, dozens of them, some young, some ancient, eyes wide, mouths open, trapped in eternal drowning. And above the pool a mirror, not glass, water, held midair like a lens, rippling slowly. When I looked into it, I didn't see myself. I saw a boy, my boy, Thomas. He reached out from the reflection, and for a moment, I reached back. Then I saw it. His hand wasn't his. It was rotten, gray, tipped with claws. The skin slipped away as he smiled, and his voice, my voice, spoke back at me. "You stayed too long." When I woke up, I was back on the shore. The fire had gone out, the forest was silent, and the pond, still, like nothing had ever happened. But I didn't leave, because the trees had grown even tighter, and the dock, gone again. I was stuck, but worse, I didn't want to leave. That was 5 days ago, or 5 weeks, hard to tell. I stopped feeling hungry 2 days back, or thirst. I sleep next to the pond now. Sometimes I fish, but I never catch anything. I just listen, because now the pond whispers to me. Tell me things about the others who came before me. The boy who ran from home, the woman who tried to drown herself, but changed her mind too late. The old man who fed the pond with chickens before offering himself. The pond remembers them all, and now it remembers me. If you ever find yourself near Lindenville, if some old man tells you about a pond that ain't been fished in a while, don't go. And if you do, don't follow the dock. Don't listen to the voices. Don't give it your name. Because once the pond has your name, you belong to it. Forever. The name's beneath. Runo. I don't sleep anymore. Not really. Sometimes I close my eyes and the world goes quiet. But I'm not resting. I'm falling. Always falling down into the water. Lungs open. Memories bleeding out like smoke. When I wake, I'm wet, always wet. My clothes dry out, eventually, but my skin never does. It's soft now, pale, wrinkled, like it's forgetting I was meant for dry land. I told myself it had all been a breakdown, isolation, starvation maybe. A mind starved of noise and people and light. So I packed up my gear, what little was left, tied strips of old tarp into makeshift trail markers, started walking through the trees. I made it 5 miles or so, I thought, until I stumbled out of the woods, scratched to hell, heart pounding, and stepped back onto the same shoreline. Stillwater pond, dead center, dock still gone. The signpost split clean in two, like the place was laughing, like it had let me wander, just to watch me crawl back. I started talking to the pond then, not because I expected answers, just because silence weighs more than sound. At first it ignored me. Then one morning, just before dawn, I heard my voice echo back, not repeat, respond. It said, "You gave us your name." I've started finding things now. Things the pond left for me. A matchbox from a hotel that burned down in 1973. A pair of spectacles with cracked lenses and initials scratched into the metal. EW. A Polaroid of a woman standing beside a canoe, holding something in her hand. When I turned the photo over, there was a note. She remembered. You must too. I don't know what I'm supposed to remember, but I dream of her sometimes. Her face isn't clear, but I know the feeling. Love maybe, or grief wearing love's skin. She was important. So was the child in the photo. A boy crouched behind her legs, peeking out. He had my eyes. I never had a son, did I? The pond lies. Or maybe it just shows you things you buried. It's not a monster, not really. It's more like a library. A wet black archive of everything you've ever wanted to forget. And once you drop your secrets into it, it catalogs them, grow them, until they crawl back out. A few nights ago, someone joined me at the fire. He didn't say his name, didn't sit either, just stood on the other side of the flame, smoke curling up through the space where his face should have been. He wore a park ranger's jacket, old moth-bitten, badge long rusted over. He said, "Stillwater's been hungry a long time." I asked him what it wanted. He said, "Names, that's all it ever wanted. Names make things real. Names are doors. Doors to what?" He didn't answer, just stepped backward into the dark. I saw others, half seen, half there, faces flickering just past the tray line, breathing water through mouths too wide, walking without footsteps, eyes like holes. Some I recognized. Derek, from the freight company, who disappeared last winter. A teacher I once had, back in middle school, Mr. Lawn. He vanished on a camping trip. A kid from my neighborhood, the one who used to throw rocks at cats, went missing in '88. All of them here, all of them claimed. The pond isn't cursed. That's what I've come to believe. It's more like a consequence, a sponge soaking up all the rot people bring with them. Guilt, violence, the names we leave behind when we change, when we lie, when we abandon what we were supposed to protect. And when the sponge is full, it leaks. I've been listening to music, not real music, more like the memory of a lullaby, faint, warbled, like it's being sung underwater. Sometimes it comes from the pond, other times, from inside the trees. Once, I followed it. The trail twisted, overgrown with roots shaped like hands, branches thick with moss that smelled like blood. It led me to a mirror, standing in the forest, nailed to a tree with rusted metal, framed in fish bones. When I looked into it, I didn't see myself. I saw the woman from the photo again. She was whispering, "You promised." The next morning, I carved a name into the tree with my pocket knife. Not mine, Thomas. It felt right, like breathing after being underwater too long. That night, the fire burned brighter, and the pond, it rippled. For the first time in days, that's how I figured it out. It wants names, not just as offerings, as currency. When I give it a name, it gives something back. And last night, it gave me a voice. The pond spoke, not in whispers, not in mimicry. It spoke in memory, in my father's voice, in my mother's lullabies, in the bark of Huck, the dog I buried when I was 20. It said, "Tell your story, and we'll let you leave." I don't know what that means. Is this story, these words, I write them in a soggy journal I found nailed under the dock that reappeared yesterday morning, as if waiting for me. There are pages missing, but one remained. The pond does not forget. Only those who remember may go, but they never leave alone. So here's my story. I came to fish. I came to escape a life I was too tired to hold on to, but I brought something with me. Something worse than loneliness, abandonment. I don't mean the divorce. I mean the boy, the one we lost, or maybe the one I chose not to raise. His mother's name was Elise. She wanted to keep him. I said I couldn't, said we'd drown in debt. She left, alone, pregnant. I never called again, never saw the boy's face, but now I see it everywhere, in the trees, in the pond, in the child who beckons me from the dock each night. Thomas, if this is what remembering costs, then so be it. If the pond wants me to carry that guilt, I will. But if I leave this place, if it lets me, I'm not going alone. because maybe that's what this is about. Not punishment, reckoning, redemption, even. The fire is low now, the trees are singing, the dock is waiting, and I think I finally understand what I have to do. I'm going out onto the water, not to drown, not to beg, but to offer something, a name, the one I never spoke aloud, the one I buried. Thomas, I'm coming.